This episode of the ChatGTM podcast is brought to you by Budget Branders, your source for custom branded cups and bags. So what makes them unique? Well, they source using a hybrid supply model, they import to keep prices low, and they have domestic backup to fill in the gaps. Learn more at budgetbranders.com or connect with Budget Branders on LinkedIn. And now it's time for the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the ChatGTM podcast. It's your host, Michael Beck and Chad Horn, coming to you live from, two different places. I'm in Tampa, Florida. He's in Boston, Massachusetts. And Chad, how you doing today, my dude?
Doing good.
Yeah?
We're as busy as things are, we're going to Chicago here in a bit. It's hard not to notice when big things happen, even with all that. And Danny, our guest today, has some big things going on. And so it's very important for us to get him in a conversation today and hear what all this is about. I'm talking about QSR Plus. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to take our guest's thunder, but I'll just say this. As soon as it popped on the scene, some of our good friends immediately signed up and joined. They were excited.
Okay. Well, my ears are burning because I keep hearing this. When we were at the RLC show, I kept hearing QSR Plus, QSR Plus, QSR Plus. So it means something is coming. I love that. Well, let's do a quick read in for our guest and we'll get going here. And I hope I nail it because sometimes ChatGPT gives me the wrong stuff. So this could be either great or hilarious. So today's guest is Danny Klein, VP Editorial Director of QSR, FSR, PMQ, those are some acronyms, in several of the restaurant industry's biggest media brands, which means he spent the last decade talking to people, shaping how America eats, orders, scales, franchises, and occasionally melts down over chicken sandwiches. Danny started in sports journalism before moving into hospitality media. He's become one of the industry's most trusted voices on restaurant trends, leadership, customer behavior, and where the business is actually headed beyond the buzzwords. He's also the force behind events like QSR Evolution and the Next Gen Restaurant Summit, also Whirl, bringing together some of the smartest operators and brands in the space. Danny Klein, welcome to the show. Did I blow it or did I actually get some good stuff in there?
So is that what ChatGPT said, or what?
That's what it gave me.
I mean, I don't really understand the part about the chicken sandwich meltdown. I have no idea what that's referencing, but other than that, it wasn't bad.
Maybe there's some kerfuffle with the Cathys nobody heard about. I'm just kidding.
I'm not sure what that's talking about. I mean, I guess during the time that was a thing back in, what was that, 2021?
Yeah.
I guess I wrote about it a lot, but I don't know that I ever melted down about it. I think I was very much a fan of the chicken sandwich war.
Maybe you're talking about melted cheese?
Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, it was good, though. It was
Cool.
good.
Well, welcome on the show, Danny. How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah, like you, Chad, and I guess you too, Michael. I'm preparing to go to Chicago here in 3 days, so always a very crazy experience, especially when you consider how the show kind of runs through the weekend, which I both really like and also makes you feel like you work 2 weeks straight.
Yep.
But to a degree, it's actually kind of nice because I think when you go to a lot of other conferences that are on like a Tuesday, Wednesday, including ours, you're like sitting there and you got a lot of emails coming in. So there's some benefits to this kind of weekend structure, but at the same time, yeah, it does make you feel like you had a really, really long stretch of work without not working.
You build in a comp day for yourself? Like, I need to make this up somewhere, or are you just powering through?
Yeah, so for like as a company rule, if you do attend this show, you're supposed to get like an extra day of PTO. Do I personally take it? No. But I make sure those of my team members who join me do. I'm just not one of those people. Sadly.
Take it in, Chad. So, Danny, we wanted to talk to you about this QSR Plus program. We even talked about what it is, just that it's a big deal. Talk us through what it is, but start with the beginning. What's the origin story?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm excited to hear it's a big deal, or at least that you guys think so, because it is very, very new. I think we're about a month and a week into this process from an actual launch perspective. From a mental perspective, had been thinking about this for years on some level. And just to be totally honest, I used to call this my if I get fired plan. And it wasn't that I expected to get fired. I just used to think like, man, like if I'm ever in a situation where I did, like, what would I do? And I used to have this idea of like, well, there are things out there that I like where I'm like, kind of a smaller community, a mixture of content, but then also, some elements that are a little more community based, which is something I'm passionate about in general when it comes to what we do. Of course, in a scenario like that, a much better idea is to not wait till you get fired, but to actually do it within the confines of the company you work for. So that came up in my, actual planning about a year ago or so. I had a CEO in the industry. He is at a emerging chicken brand out in Canada, just opened in New York. His name is Michelle Falcon, not really hiding his identity here, but he actually came to me and just said, "Hey, I'm in a couple groups that are sort of like these mastermind communities. I have one for like entrepreneurship, one for CEOs of brands." And, he told me how helpful they were to him as like a growing leader, and kind of laid out to me a few of the aspects that he found helpful. It was like a private Facebook group, monthly Zoom calls. They had some other things going on like homework and whatever. And his basic call to action to me was, the only thing that's missing from these is that I don't have one for specifically restaurant people. Um, and I can't find one. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting that that model, at least as you're laying it out, doesn't exist. Which, of course, then in my brain goes, well, maybe I could try to create this. It's not that different than my if I get fired plan. So I had him, come on with a phone call or Zoom call with myself and one of my colleagues, and he just sort of said what he said to me to him, and then we talked about it offline and came up with a version of it that made sense both for our brand and what we wanted to do. Now, I have a tendency in life to never make my life easy, so we ended up white labeling the whole system, which is great because it's scalable for other brands in our company, but it's not as easy as if you just went to like Beehive or Substack or some of these things that are out there. Actually creating it yourself took us months to do. So, I had this plan and it just kept going and going over time of like, well, we're building this, we're testing the functionality. And eventually when it was finally ready to go, I actually, kind of brought Michelle in, was like, here, go take a look through this platform, and then launched it to the world. And the truth was the first week was full of technology problems to be expected, mostly on the onboarding side, but we got through it. But the real thing that was exciting about that opening couple days is the interest was way higher than I thought. I really didn't know what to expect, and I'm sitting there that first day, and it's just like one after another, I was getting these applications. And the truth was I wasn't supposed to get the applications unless people were like getting all the way to the end. So that gets back
Mhm.
to the technology glitch. But it did
Don't get
inform,
people.
right. But it did inform me that people wanted to be a part of it. So basically, to kind of outline what it is. So I ended up not going with a Facebook group because, as I told Michelle, I'm not somebody's aunt. No offense to Facebook.
Somebody poke Danny.
Yeah. So I went with a WhatsApp group, and the reason I picked that was because of the international component of it. I actually had never used WhatsApp, didn't have it on my phone. I spent many weeks kind of messing around with it, watching YouTube videos on how to create communities in it, all these different things, and I'm still learning at this point, but that was the one element, so that was the kind of Facebook version that Michelle had mentioned. There's the original content version, which lives on the dashboard that we created. And then there's also the monthly Zoom calls that we're doing, which I bring in an industry expert who in the early days has been someone that's been a part of the group. And then I've got one coming up now with George McCarrow, who, if you're not familiar, was the founder of Longhorn and currently CEO of Ted's Montana Grill. So excited about that, where basically everyone comes, listens to a speaker, asks them questions, supposed to be pretty open. So what I'll tell you from the early days is the number one engagement part without question is the WhatsApp group. It's like having
Hmm.
a giant group chat with a bunch of restaurant operators, and so it has been very, very valuable to them. I mean,
Yeah.
entertaining for me, but they exchange contacts and ideas and sort of recommendations on very, very specific things, which I think in our industry is often either lacking or is challenging to find without kind of having like a lot of layers in between. So like the other day there were people on there just exchanging like lawyer contacts for FDDs and stuff. And if you think about how you were going to get that previously, not the easiest thing. So it's been exciting to kind of watch that chat grow. Um, it goes on well past my bedtime usually. I guess kind of how restaurant operators work. I usually wake up and go scroll through the messages, and yeah, I mean it's just been a very cool thing so far. And again, it's super early. I'm constantly trying new things and seeing where it goes, but so far, I think it's been the resource I hoped it would be. Michelle has kind of told me like, hey, I got this supply chain person here, I got this referral in here, and it's been exactly what I hoped she would give me. So that obviously is a good thing to hear.
So, Danny, thinking about that, who can come in the door? Who's welcome into the party on that?
Yeah, so that's a very important thing to mention there, Michael. um,
Yeah, be in there and sell some stuff. No.
yeah, so that was a back and forth we had in the early days a lot about whether or not we were going to create some avenue for vendors or suppliers to engage.
Slippery
Like,
slope.
yeah, so like, do you charge them a different tier, or do you monitor, like, give them a set of rules they have to follow? Do you, say, hey, you could come present on the AMA or whatever it is that we do? Like, I'm on a board at the University of Florida that we actually do that, where it's like you have a board meeting, but for the first 20 minutes, X person comes and talks to you about AI, and it's
Yeah.
fine. We understand that's what's going on. But as of right now, what I've elected to do is to not let any of them in. And I'll say this to my vendor operator friends in the world, is not anything personal. I've had some conversations with them in the last 2 weeks
Yep.
because some of them have tried to join. Some have asked about joining. I've, had to reject a few applications, and then I try to follow up to explain why I'm rejecting you. But for now, I want to keep it strictly operator to operator at the moment. And what I'll say about that, and this is the other thing that I get asked the most about, is the fact that I charge for this.
Mhm.
So, restaurant operators in general, I mean, we do charge for our conference, but like they're kind of used to not being charged for things, which I get, because the typical model of B2B is to sell audience, and we of course do that in 900 other channels. But in this one, I didn't really want to go that route because I just didn't think it fit into what we were trying to do, and also wanted to do something a little bit different. So that's going to require me to then charge you. Because if I don't charge, and first of all, if I don't charge you, I don't know how engaged you're going to be. Secondly, so the charge is almost like a gate to make sure you take it seriously, make sure you really want to be there, and then also it's so that it can be sustain itself without the need for some of these things that people are asking me not to do. I charge $500 a year, which, look, I mean, Bill had told me some of the groups he's in are $10,000 a year. So
Wow.
$500 a year is for this service is not a lot of money. I mean, I'm not really someone in life who sells things or is used to asking for money, but it's like $1.12 a day or whatever. But it's $500 a year. It takes a hell of a lot of time for me to curate this thing. And on top of that, you have this access to all the operators that are in the group. I have a directory on the dashboard that has their phone number, their email. Of course, on WhatsApp, you could call them, you could chat them, you could direct message them. People do this all the time. They call me sometimes for some reason, which I'm happy to answer, and we have conversations. But again, that's the idea, is like, if I don't want to let suppliers in right now, and I want to keep it strictly an operator organization community, I have to have that model up front. So,
Mm.
and yeah, it's been one of those things, and not everyone wants to pay it, and I'm totally okay with that. If you want to come in and you want to pay it, we are happy to have you, but that's just how it has to be for it to exist the way it does.
So Danny, in the planning stages and up to the point where you launched this thing, you had an idea of what about it would be valuable to operators. So what has actually happened, and what has surprised you in terms of what the operators in the program have actually found valuable?
Yeah, so I'll give myself some credit here. I was correct in what I thought they would want. I mean, we had a lot of internal conversations about the exclusive content side, and I was always kind of the idea that that would be the least important thing to people, even though it was going to take me the most amount of time to create. But, we have a similar model in one of our healthcare divisions where the content is very, very important to the people paying the kind of for the plus version of the brand. But in my case, because I have so much content on regular QSR that I do not charge for and don't intend to, it's hard for me to be like, okay, well, like what version of my content is worth you spending money versus the one that you get for free?
Uh-huh.
And I can't answer that question because I think the stuff for free is just as good. So I don't want to box myself into that world, and I don't intend to ever do that. So most of the exclusive content that I've written for this platform has been sort of this mixture of my actual opinions on things, which of course I don't levy in my general content. And also I share a lot of data reports that I get sent to from vendors that, I often in the years that I've been getting those never quite know what to do with them, So this has given me an outlet to be like, hey, Tilster sent me this 400-page report on digital ordering. Here are my thoughts. So, but with that said, like that is to me by far and away the third most valuable part of this experience for people who are in it. I had a feeling they really wanted the ability to chat with people in the industry. So like, for example, one of my favorite things about kind of how this has developed is that I have a lot of really, really small operators in this group,
Huh.
1-2 units,
Mm.
one unit franchisees, people who are really just like beginning to grow. And they're in the same group now as folks like Troy Hooper and stuff who have, a lot of experience in growth and work for larger organizations and have these incredible track records and things of that nature. So they have suddenly the ability in life to just say, hey, like, hi, I'm in the group. Like, Troy, can you answer this question I have on leases? Which just wasn't going to happen in real life because even though he's a very gracious and, incredibly insightful guy with his time, like if, you were just like a 1-unit franchisee, like how are you really going to have that cold opening to him? So it really broke down the barriers of, how many units you have or if we've heard of the brand or like how big you might be. And everyone's on the same sort of plane in this group. And because again, they paid and they're in here and they understood what they got into, they're engaging in the conversations with each other because this is what they signed up for. So, like this morning, people have been chatting about funding, like how to fund their locations. And it's everyone from like, 2-3 unit brands to people who run multi-unit platforms, just saying what they do and answering questions. Because again, we don't have this kind of like element of like, hey, set up a time to talk to me. And so I've heard some, chatter like that guy who called me, for example, I was talking about before. He's called other people too. And someone said to me the other day, I was chatting with him and he's like, yeah, I set up a Zoom call with Troy. We talked for an hour. He's got 2 units. So again, that's really been the magic of this so far,
Yeah.
is this kind of like, hey, I am joining the collective upswell of community. I am open to you talking to me. No one in that group is going to ignore you because if they are, why are they there? So that's been the thing that's been the best. I mean, the Zoom calls have been a lot of fun too because we get to see each other and they're going to keep getting better because again, we've only had so far 2 of them and both were awesome. One was with Ed Howie who talked about customer retention. He's a former Chick-fil-A operator. If you don't know his story, he works with a lot of brands, really big on the marketing side. So that was a great call. And then Lisa Miller, who a lot of people know as well, came and shared a lot of Gen Z insight with us that came from a poll that we dropped in the group. It was just like, what do you want me to talk about? Turned out to be Gen Z. And that's what she gave us for an hour. So yeah, that to me has been the thing, has been the open line of communication and the ability to get answers in real time for things that you need to know from people who are not selling you solutions. And again, vendors are often, as I tell people, some of the most knowledgeable people in the room because they solve problems every day. But there's a time and place to have both of these options as an operator. And this is just giving them one that maybe they didn't have before.
Yeah, it's funny, Jeff Alexander, last year, I think I saw him at Prosper, and he said something to me about careful who you take advice from. Everybody has an agenda, and it seems like it bakes into that when we're talking about the vendor side of things.
Yeah, you can't help that reality. That's just
Yeah.
what it is. And some vendors are, of course, far better at that than others. There are a lot of vendors in the world who are incredibly helpful people who will not try to sell you something. I know lots of those people, and some of them have asked to be in the group. And as much as I would like to let you in, that's just not what we're doing right now because I can't just say, hey, guys, like this person, I know him. He's great. He's not going to sell you something, but I'm not going to let in any of these other people. Because,
You
of course,
have trust with your community right now, right?
yeah, and with the vendor community, because there's politics to be played in life. And I'm not a big politics person, but if I let one of you in, I gotta,
Right.
and other people find out, then I've kind of broken my own sort of parameters here, and it's just harder for me to go forward. So there's a lot of lucrative like white space in trying to think about how to involve them, but I'm just not doing this for the lucrative white space at the moment. So right now, I'm just riding this wave of let the restaurant operators fend for themselves in the group chat. I obviously stoke a lot of the conversation, but have them have this community and we'll see what happens. Again, I'm only a month or so in right now, and I don't know what happens next, to be honest.
So I'm not that familiar with WhatsApp. I mean, I know it, and I've had it, and I've had usually people try to pull me on it for some other nefarious purpose than what actually it's meant for. But when you're dealing with a bunch of people, right? And I mean, moderate. I imagine there's some form of moderation that has to happen when you have opinions flying in from different places, potential flashpoints of contentious subjects. How do you govern in that, or is it the Wild West?
No, yeah, no. I mean, I'm basically doing that job right now. But I'll say this. I mean, like it has not been like people are not really getting into trouble on there. So they are being very respectful of one another. There have been arguments. I mean, we have so basically how WhatsApp works, at least in this group, is it's like there's a community. And then within the community, there's a lot of subcategories happening. So like I keep adding more because people keep asking me to, which makes my onboarding process more challenging. But I listen to folks. So, there's one on like POS recommendations. And then there's
Yeah.
one on real estate and one on franchising. So the POS one, that could get a little bit that could get a little heated sometimes in a
Yep.
good way. People have a lot of strong opinions on some vendors in the industry, I guess, to be honest. And not always is it a positive thing. And that's, I think, one of the points of what we're doing here, right? So, yeah, I mean, a lot of times what happens is they'll get into a conversation and get a little in the weeds, and then they'll say to each other, like, I'm going to go, like, message you offline,
Mm.
and they take it there. So far, the moderation part has not been too crazy. That's my dog
I
eating.
didn't know if it was my dog or not. Humphrey, you gotta wait until this is over, bro.
Yeah,
Now.
he's eating like a chew toy, but at least he's not biting me, which is a positive. But what I'll say, like in the future though, I have like so I'm sure you guys have probably met like Tony from Sea Society.
Yeah.
So she's like, her and I talk a lot during the week sometimes about just things, and she's been one of the earliest supporters I had of this,
Yeah.
and she's just a great person. But she had kind of mentioned like, what are you gonna do if there's like a whole bunch of people in here? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know.
Awesome.
I'll cross that bridge when it happens. Right
Yeah.
now, we're at a comfortable number of people. I think there's like 60-ish people in the chat right now, and I would say maybe half of them are really active, and then maybe some of the other ones just use it to message each other and things. But if I had like 200 people in there, how crazy would it get?
Right.
I don't really know. So I will address that concern in my life when it arrives. But right now, at that number that I mentioned, I mean,
Yeah.
it really hasn't been a problem, to be honest.
One more follow-up question on the platform. So you'd mentioned sharing things like reports and content. Is that something in WhatsApp that actually is a place you could look up a file or a PDF or something? How does that work for
Yeah, yeah, you can. I mean, so the content itself publishes on the actual white label dashboard that we created,
okay.
but I can share links in there, of course, and then I could also share like files. So like we swap a lot of FDDs in there. It's just become like a thing
Oh.
because I have access to a lot of them. I also just know where to find them from my regular day job. So
Here come all your vendors again. That is just
yeah, right. So sometimes I'll just be like, "Hey guys, you want to see the Jersey Mike's FTD?" And I just drop it in the chat, that stuff like that. But and then some of the brands who are in the group, like Angry Chicks and stuff, and Pepper Lunch, I put their FDZs in there because it's just kind of funny. But I have the ability to like do that. So you could drop files in like the group and just be like, "Hey guys, here's a report I got sent to by." Again, we'll use Tilser as example if you want to check it out like in full. So yeah, you could do both. But yeah, the content again, like sometimes I write it and I'm like, man, this is taking me a long time to do, and what are like 7 people reading it? Might be better off putting this on QSR, but I have to keep in my head that part of this is building toward people onboarding. So I want to make
right.
sure that when people join the group, this is my biggest concern with this thing every day is like, if you do come in and I don't know you, which lately has been mostly the case, it's my dog barking again. I want to make sure they understand the value,
Right.
right? Because if again, for me, it's weird to charge you $500. I'm just not used to that. And so I want to make sure they understand why beyond some of that like larger stuff. So I want the site to be full of content that's well, written and researched, and they go to read and they're not like, the hell is this, right? Like this looks like it may be valuable to me. I want them to make sure that there's value there. I want them to see the AMAs scheduled. We also have conference discounts if you join. And then I also want to make sure that when they pop into the WhatsApp group, like they see all this stuff happening. So I put a lot of effort into making sure that when you do onboard, that I get you into the WhatsApp group. That's like my biggest pain point. Like I have it as part of the like automatic onboarding email you get, but people don't generally follow directions that well. So I always have to like make sure if I see your name come in, like I'll run up to my computer at 10 o'clock at night, get your email, add you to the next AMAs, send you a personal email with a graphic saying thanks for joining or whatever. And then also sending you a text, for the WhatsApp group after I add them to my contacts. So
Okay.
there's like this like 4 layer onboarding process that takes a lot and then I'll actually go into the WhatsApp group and make sure I add you to every single group. And if you want to leave one of them, cool. But I just want to make sure that you see the conversations happening
Mm.
because I just sometimes think that people don't get like, I got to go like past the general community and I got to get into the POS chat, into this chat, into this chat. And I don't want them to miss what's happening. So I add them individually to every single chat so that they can then figure it out later. But that's what's taking me the most time because there's this little voice inside my brain that goes, I want to make sure that they know that this was worth being a part of. My dog is
I
gonna
so
not
want to
stop
yell
doing
at
it.
my dog because I think
I
it's him doing it.
so if I actually try to stop him from doing that, he's gonna get worse.
Anywhere.
So he's only 3 months old. He does not listen to
Yeah.
anything, and he will
All
bite me
all
and
good.
bark and go crazy. So
So Danny, with QSR evolution later this year,
Yep.
how do you think having this QSR Plus community is going to change the in-person events?
yeah, well, good question. I foresee a future where this group has in-person elements, no question. I've been asked that already. That is without doubt going to be a part of the roadmap going forward. And my guess is it'll probably start there. So I have a feeling I will do something specific at Evolution for Plus members. What that is, don't know yet. It's only May, and I got 9,000 other things I'm trying to figure out. But I do plan for that to be an element there. And already the group has kind of put together like their own efforts. So like at RLC, for example, as you mentioned, like there was a coffee meetup for Plus members. who attended RLC, and then there was a conversation in the chat afterwards that was sort of like a recap of things that they saw and trends and stuff like that. And it was as granular, honestly, as like one night they were messaging each other to like meet at the bar. Which I'm sitting there and they're like, "I'll see you at the bar, Sam," and I'm like, "What's happening here?" Like, but it was cool, it was cool to see that. And so like even at NRA, we're already making plans to meet as a group. And then also like they're making their own plans, and we have a post NRA show AMA going on about 2 weeks later where people are going to talk about what they saw, which would be really helpful for those people who are not attending. That was actually a recommendation of Sam Stanovich, who I'm sure you guys know
Big
very
Sam.
well.
Yeah.
So that was his idea. He's like, why don't we do a post like recap for the group? So we're going to do that on Zoom. Yeah, I mean, it'll have a future at Evolution. What that means 2 years from now, who knows? But for now, I view it as like, hey, this group will probably be happy to come connect in person on site. And of course, from like the back end standpoint, there is a QSR Evolution group within the WhatsApp chat where they just sort of talk about it, and like I said, you get a discount as being a member. So the truth is you get $200 worth of discounts for joining. So if you really want to get technical, I'm charging you $300 a year, although a lot of the members are coming as speakers for free anyway. But if you're not, you get $100 off, so that's not nothing. And the same is true of World. So you get a World discount, you get an Evolution discount. There is, as you might imagine, a World group on the WhatsApp chat. How could there not? And Satine, my colleague, kind of moderates that. So yeah, there's a lot of elements there for the future to grow that are just not tapped yet.
So Danny, it'd be hard to argue that you're not a builder. I mean, watching from the outside with what you've done with Whirl, with what you're doing with QSR Plus, and you work for WTWH Media, like, how do you earn that level of trust just to Humphrey? We gotta wait a minute.
Yeah, good luck.
Like,
Good luck with that one.
it's like you got carte blanche, like, just you're just rolling through this. Like, how do you get that kind of backing? Or, I mean, it's just impressive with what you're doing.
But man, that's a loaded question.
How many times you're like, great idea, but
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Even when you see like something again, like going back to the beginning of this took a long time to come to life in the way that made sense to everybody. But being part of a larger organization like this, I sort of hinted at this. They have a version of this at our healthcare groups that's called whatever the name is, Plus, right? So that's where the Plus actually came from. Our chief operating officer was like, you call it QSR Plus, just like we do, senior housing news plus or whatever. So there was already a version of what ended up coming to life within our larger media company. We structured it differently because, again, I tried to sort of explain that to me, I thought the chat was going to be the real hook. So those things don't have like a WhatsApp group to my knowledge. They have an actual like dashboard chat, which in our case, no one uses. So we have that, but like, yeah, they don't go to it. They all use WhatsApp. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, but like I would hope, obviously I've been at this company, my dog is still eating this one. I've got one squeak toy in this whole room and he's attacking it right now.
I literally in my head invented a new squeak toy that only has a dog whistle in it, so only the dog can hear the squeaking.
But yeah, I mean, I've been here 11 years, part of the current company for I think 4, and yeah, they have done a really good job of trusting me to take some of these ideas to life. I mean, Whirl is the best example of that. I mean, honestly, because I remember having that conversation 4 years ago or whenever it was, where I just tried to explain to our CEO at the time why I thought that was a good idea, and he was just like, okay, go ahead and make it happen. But yeah, there are a lot of ideas I have that don't happen, and they probably shouldn't. So it's good to have that layer sometimes of people kind of helping you who have a lot of experience. I mean, our COO's built he built his own media company, and he's a really incredibly smart guy. And our SVP of audience development's been the publisher of QSR for 30 years, So there's a lot of these things in here to say, like maybe once in a while that, Danny, you shouldn't do this. But in a scenario like this where they say, it sounds like a great one, it is good to, of course, have multiple opinions in the room to shape, to kind of refine some of this, like just general idea that I have into something actually business wise that's tangible. That's kind of what I often, they have to tell me, right? Because I'm an experience driven content creator. I want to do things, but someone's got to step in there and tell me we got to make a profit. So, and I respect that, right? Our
Yeah.
CRO is a great guy, really good to kind of communicate with and to bounce ideas off of. A lot of things that we're working on now that hopefully you'll be hearing about soon, and maybe we'll do a podcast. But he's got to be sort of that guy in the room once in a while that's like, hey, Danny, like you tell me the idea. Let me talk on the back end to X person, and we'll meet afterwards and figure something out. So very lucky to have all these different people helping me out. But yeah, I didn't know I liked doing this kind of part of my job, to
Yeah.
be honest. I was really always like a in the basement writing your journal kind of person. But it just has kind of played out that way, that turned out to be something that I was passionate about. So glad to see it continue, and to have people like Satine and other folks in our company to kind of make it real versus just another one of my crazy ideas.
Well, from the street, it looks like that's how you have taken your leadership style and apply that same latitude and trust into people like Satine and other members of your team that are out there doing the same thing. Like, you can tell that flows.
Yeah, for sure. I do try to, for her in particular, to make sure that I'm basically a support system for her creativity. I've had a lot of bosses in my life. Some who are really good at helping me along that path, some who were very bad at it. I think we all, as we get older, try to take certain aspects of the people who manage us and, bring that to people that we help get better versus the things that we do not want to do. And so in her case, I was able to recognize pretty early on with her that she's not a static producer, and some people who are that way, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
They just want to execute, knock off what tasks you give them, but she's not that person. She's a true, community creator and type of, influence the relationships that happen at a much deeper engaged level beyond just writing stories. So, and we just recently had a very kind of deep conversation about this internally of like, well, what is she? Because she, just to get into like the scope of the media world here without getting on a very long tangent, she's not really an editor, right? She's not a reporter. She's a something else. So you may have seen this, you may not have, but she actually got a promotion about 3 weeks ago, and her new title is brand manager. No such title exists in our company until she got it. And that was a conversation that went back and forth between myself and the COO and a lot of other folks, CEO as well, or Matt Logan, who's our chief executive now for the past, I guess, about a year, of like, yeah, we recognize, like, so he was at Whirl. He walked in the back of the room, saw her doing the keynote with McDonald's, and was just like, this is, she's like a powerhouse type employee, but she's not your normal employee. Like, what do we do to recognize kind of what her role is? So we came up with this brand manager position, which is basically recognizing sort of her stake in the creation of a platform versus being just someone who supplies content to it. So she's involved very directly in the relationships, how it comes together, the programming, how it grows, the sort of tiers of, being incentivized to continue doing so, and also just being rewarded along the path of saying like, this has grown this much, this is how you were involved. And just again, kind of identifying the fact that the role of the quote unquote editor is changing in our business. We are this mixture of creators, influencer, event programmer, especially at our company. We do not have these divisions set aside like some others, which just again different how we operate, where like our editor is both writing content and being a journalist, but also setting up keynotes, and facilitating partnerships between, vendors and our sales team, and devising how some of this community comes together. And while that's a very difficult thing to do, a lot of the feedback that I received that kind of makes it unique, this is especially true of Satine, is when you get on site and you see the final product, you very much see the cohesion between the face of what we're doing and how it comes together. So, like, if you go to Whirl, and anyone who goes will tell you this, she is this central gravity figure of like how people interact with it.
Yeah.
Same is true of social media. I kind of play that role, although I'm not as exciting as she is. But like evolution, I'm sort of that person, right? Over the last 4 years, and
Yeah.
I'm that way with QSR Plus, where it's not like we have like a community facilitator in there handling this once you get through. Like after I just hop on the internet and say like, "Hey, we have this Plus program you should join." Like, no, I'm the one moderating the conversations, and I'm adding my opinions. I'm sending in photos of random things that we're doing, whatever it might be. So like our editors are very, very tied to our products that happen. So brand manager was a way for us to sort of identify where the future is going. So long roundabout way. I mean, I could talk about the changing media stuff forever. So
Yeah.
don't bring me down that path unless you want to go.
I don't have
um,
time right now.
I hear
Yeah,
what you're saying.
but
Load it up with
it's fascinating. Honestly, it
yeah.
is fascinating though, because it's so new to me after a career of not being into it that way, and now QSR Plus is a natural extension of where we were going. So it's kind of like taking our conference learnings and what we've noticed, and sort of, I don't know, constraining it into another space. Because again, we can write content every single day, and we're going to, and that's going to be the bread and butter of who QSR is. But
Mhm.
that other element of, again, that source of gravity for the industry, that's the thing that's really evolving the fastest.
Chad, we got like one more question before we get into the lightning round.
Well, just to tie it back to QSR Plus where we started, what's the most gratifying piece of operator feedback you've gotten so far, Danny?
Yeah. Okay, my dog is leaving the room. Thank goodness. You can see the
That means
door
gonna
open.
chew up your Ferrari robe or whatever it is back.
That's a Harry Potter robe, first of
Oh,
all.
sorry.
It's just
Was
on
it
display.
Gryffindor?
I've never actually worn it. It's just like I got given that as a gift. But not that I wouldn't wear it, but I just don't. Okay, so to your question, I brought it up earlier, but it was really honestly when Michelle told me. He sent me like a text, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks in or something, or maybe even less, I don't remember, just telling me that it was exactly what he was asking for. That was obviously great to
Mm.
hear, because that first week was really hard, very frustrating with the technology issues. I mean, it totally expected. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't upset, but I was still frustrated because I had all these people trying to get in that couldn't. And it was just like, God, like, now I got to try to retarget them and explain what happened and da da da. And I'm like, oh man, the joys of building something from scratch. But for him to actually say that 2 weeks later felt really, really good. And I'm glad, and I'm glad that that was true, right? That he actually came into something and got what he was looking for. That is the apex of any sort of product. And I hope that, and I'm sure I'm gonna have people when a year rolls around who are like, I don't want to be in this next year. Can't help that either. But I also am now relatively confident that I will have a lot of people who thought this was really what I was looking for.
So before we wrap up here and get to the lightning round, QSR Evolution coming up. Can you give us just an insight, a sneak peek to who some of that awesome lineup is going to be in September?
I'll try to do it really fast.
Yeah, so many.
Every year, like I said a while ago, never make my life easy. 140 something speakers this year. I always have that many. You think I had learned by now, but I don't.
Glad
And honestly, like, I can't stop now because I don't want people to go, man, there was 140 speakers last year. Now there's 17. So I've kind of locked myself into this craziness every single year.
yeah.
But, I'll just say, we kind of shifted a little bit this year to make it more cohesive. So in the past, we had these like co-located events going on. That's not the case any longer because, as I tried to explain to folks, like everyone just called it QSR Evolution, even though we had the Next Gen Restaurant Summit and the Pizza Power Forum. No one really understood what the hell that meant, and
Right.
it was complicated in the registration and stuff. So it's just QSR Evolution now. There are still next gen tracks, which is the full service side. So you have 2 of those alongside 5 QSR tracks happening. So you have 7 tracks of concurrent content per block at a time, which is again normal for us. It's just that in the past I think it was 4, it was originally 3 QSR and then it was 4, 1 FSR and then 1 pizza. Now you have 5 QSR and 2 FSR. And we removed the pizza from the conference because it just didn't fit. So the other thing is, I'll just like briefly, the keynote side. If you come to our events, you understand that we handle this process very restaurant operator focused. I haven't fully fleshed out the first one yet, although I know what it is. So that one's to come here soon. But then I have the CEO of White Castle is the closer on day 1. Shake Shack CEO is the opener on day 2, Rob Lynch, who he came to the very first conference in year 1. He was in a fireside chat. So this is him on the big stage. And of course,
Yeah.
he's since gone from Papa John's to Shake Shack, still in Atlanta. So really great speaker. Looking forward to that one, of course. I've always been a fan of that brand. And then we're closing with the CEO of Texas Roadhouse, which I'm very excited about because Jerry Morgan's one of my favorite executives in this industry. I have been covering that brand since I started working here. I was a really, really big fan of the previous CEO, Kent Taylor, the late and great. Loved listening to him. Had a great interview with him once that will stay with me forever. I'd kind of written the piece when he passed away with the brand and just have been in touch with them for a long time and really understand that story. So it's been a long time coming getting them to this level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited to do so. And then another thing that I forgot to mention, again, last year we had sort of switched things up by swapping our welcome reception out with a Chick-fil-A welcome reception. So we're doing that again, although a little bit differently this time. So instead of Andrew Cathy coming, we're having the president of Chick-fil-A come, Susanna Frost, who, at least to my understanding, has never done a keynote ever.
Oh, wow.
And she's a very different person than Andrew, much more, if you kind of think about like Andrew is this amazing legacy story of the history of the brand. He was on stage, talking a lot with Coke kind of about partnerships and all that. This year, Susanna's just going up there by herself, and she's going to really talk more kind of about the 80-year in the business and a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a much different look in the Chick-fil-A that's less kind of about sort of that larger vision over history and more about who they are right now. So very excited for people to see that. And again, not a chat style. She's just going to give a keynote by her lonesome there on stage. So that's where I would start this conversation. But yeah, we don't have enough time to get into it because again, it's 140 plus speakers. It's a lot of content. It's AI, labor.
2 podcasts to get through each speaker for a minute.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot, and it's a lot like it's always a lot, and it's still in Atlanta. It moved down the street to a nicer hotel. You can walk from one hotel to the other in 2 minutes, but it is not the old falling apart Marriott Marquis. So also happy about that. It's in the Grand Hyatt Regency.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. And I wasn't gonna ask, but it occurred to me because you brought up Ted's Montana Grill previously. You're an Atlanta brand. Clearly, Atlanta lost a legend this last week, and Mr. Ted Turner, who was the founder of Ted's Montana Grill. Is that a vacuum that anybody's feeling in the industry? I know he had a big empire, but I mean, he did touch
Yeah.
hospitality, and it was a big part of Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked about it earlier, how George was going to come speak to my group. So originally they had reached out to me about this topic, like they co-founded that brand together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to talk to him about that and do a story. But then while we were having a conversation, I was just like, hey, would you also, be willing to come talk to this little group I have going on? So of course he was gracious enough to do that. But I guess I'll know the answer to that more after him and I chat here next week. But I would have to think the answer to some degree, of course, is yes. And for someone like George, who founded the brand with him, that's going to be a really interesting conversation to kind of dive into how that came together and stuff. Because of course, Ted Turner was a very interesting person.
Yes, he was.
So yeah, I mean, I don't have a really fleshed out answer for you, but it will be coming in some form of content on our FSR site at some point.
All right, look forward to it. All right, let's get in the lightning round because we got to let you go. I didn't let you know we're going to do this lightning round. It's just a bunch of fun. It's a set of 7 fun questions we wrap up with. And I decided since you have a co-host today with you, we go ahead and make it about your co-host. And so
he actually just fell asleep, thank God.
he did. Now it's the time to be up. No, these are 7 fun questions about your journey with Humphrey. So here we go. What's been the funniest adjustment since Humphrey showed up? And I'm only asking this because you've been very public with him on LinkedIn. I love along for the journey.
Yeah. So, it's the first time I've ever had a puppy and children at the same time.
Yeah.
And they both love each other, and he bites the crap out of all of them. So,
sharp puppy teeth.
So it's been this like mixture of like they're so excited to see him and play with him, and then they also run from him like he's a 200-pound Rottweiler.
Wow.
And he's this like 20-pound floppy basset. so he chases them around the house, and they scream like he's about to injure them, and I'm like looking at this tiny little dog. But so that's been fun, funny, sometimes infuriating, and I really look forward to when he stops biting everybody, which from my experience, will be in about 4 months. So,
right.
So I'm in it with that. But that's my answer.
Very cool. All right. What's one thing about Basset Hounds nobody understands until they own one?
2 things, and anyone who has a Basset Hound will know what I'm talking about. Is they have a certain smell, which is this. It's kind of like It's kind of smells like either popcorn or Fritos, depending on which of those 2 things you want to relate it to.
I want a Frito flavored dog.
And you really, it's an interesting smell. You really can't get it out. Like actually, if you wash them a lot, supposedly it makes it worse. It's like this oil in their skin. But anyone who has a Basset Hound like knows this. And if you come into the house but you're not used to it, there's this Basset Hound smell that you're like, okay. That's number 1. That's probably the biggest one. I would say number 2 is I don't think people give enough credit to how little they listen. Like I've had other types of dogs in my life. Grew up with golden retrievers. Had a German Shepherd mix when I was in college, and I could they will pick things up, like potty training, for example. A Basset Hound will understand that to be like he should go outside, but he also just doesn't care if he doesn't. And that's like a hound thing that is true of all hounds, but I think most true of a Basset Hound and maybe like a bloodhound. But because they get distracted very easily by smell, I guess. I don't know, man, but they don't listen. You have to like take their training at a different level of patience than you would pretty much any other dog.
Sounds about right. All right. Outside of crashing your podcast, has Humphrey mastered any bad habits yet, or is he still in startup phase?
Yeah, I mean he has a really bad habit of eating things while I'm working, surge protectors and stuff. So like I've really tried to. You have to like baby proof your room for a dog, especially the first like week I was here. God, it was a struggle. I was sitting there going like, God, how am I ever going to work? Like he won't stop biting everything in this room that I'm in. Like I can't lock him out of the room. So that's his worst habit, is just eating stuff and biting people. And I guess also he's not super good at potty training, but he has a lot of bad habits.
Washing the rugs, that helps a lot.
Yeah, thankfully I don't have many rugs in my house, but yeah.
What's your favorite part of your day with him?
Yeah, I just to be like when I lost my previous basset hound, I was a huge hole in my like. So I'm home alone like all day working. You know, my kids and everybody leaves, and there was always this like I'd come back from dropping my daughter off at kindergarten or first grade now, and then come upstairs, and the dog would follow me and just like pass out on this bed I have over here. And I just really missed that. Like as annoying as it was, because I could let her out a lot and all that. I missed being annoyed, you know? It's like that was part of my life. I enjoyed being annoyed by my dog.
Okay.
I'm happy now. Like I come home and, you know, drop her off. I let him out. I bring him upstairs. And even if he's biting me and being in a pain, like like being a home alone with him during the day more so than I didn't like not having a dog. I had some friends that would be like, wait a while or whatever, but it just never felt right to me.
Yeah. Well, it's not a
So
replacement. It's just another dog.
no, right. I just have like another dog in the house to engage with.
Do you
And
talk to him all day long?
I mean, you know, I sometimes I talk to him when I walk him, you know. I'm sure it makes me look like a crazy person, but yeah, I missed like having that place to put that like feelings toward, you know, like I guess you could say put love toward or whatever, but that was a gap and a hole in my life I was not filling. Um someone told me like, oh well, you know, you like pour it into your kids, and I'm like, this is just different conversations. That is not how this works. So for me, like having him here and dealing with him, and you know, again, the kind of have him around is just it feels like it feels right again. I felt very very weird without my dog.
All right,
Yeah.
last 2 questions. You choose to share them on LinkedIn. What's your thought there? I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for some backstory there, I mean, my old dog Maggie, I think I had kind of posted this when when she passed and stuff like that. That's how I used to do that a lot. This was back like in 2016. So when I was a sports writer, again, I'll try to make this a short story. I was actually always pretty good at building digital communities, but when I had like the most followers in our whole newsroom by a huge amount. Actually kept me from getting fired. We used to have this computer in the screen that would track social impressions because that was what was important back then. And I was making the quota by myself for the entire newsroom. So they tried to fire me as part of a larger restructuring of my department, and then they ended up firing someone else and hiring me back. But during that period of time, I was applying for jobs. That's how I ended up here. Because I was like, well, I'm not going to stay here. You just tried to fire me for like nothing. But when they tried to keep me, they were like, oh, like, we really need this like social engagement you're getting on Twitter. But anyway, long story to say, like when I got here, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go on Twitter. I actually tried to like start posting about what I was writing, and it's not working. Like my audience were all these high school kids in Florida, and they were like making fun of me because you know I'd be like posting a story about whatever restaurant brand, and they'd be like, "Is this what you do now, Danny?" And I had this realization. I was like, I got to get off of here.
Shifted.
Yeah, no, and the only like option I saw available was LinkedIn, which was very different back then. But like I popped on there, and I was like, oh God, like I don't. Other than like tagging the people I'm interviewing, I really don't even know where to get started. So I came up with this like thing on Fridays that I was just post a picture of my dog with some kind of silly thing. And over like the course of time, it became something like I'd go to interview someone and they'd be like, oh yeah, like, hey, I like that dog you post on here. It's kind of weird, but like it's a really cute dog or whatever. And it became like a little bit of an identity thing. I remember going to this conference that's now defunct and people talking to me about it. They would be like, oh yeah, you're the guy with the dog or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this. And so like I posted a picture of my dog every Friday for years. And Maggie, you know, became kind of like a lot of people who never commented on anything I ever did or said would comment on just the Maggie posts. Like she had like fans, and I had a relatively large at one point Instagram account for her, and that became a thing. And then as I got older and I started to do panels and present at conferences and stuff, I put her up on, she always went up on stage with me because I would be like, my dog's here, and I'd tell the story. And it became so now if you see me at a conference, I wear this Basset Hound pin on my jacket because I'm just sort of trying to identify like the fact she's with me because she was a really a honestly important part of my work career in developing something to say. And so when I got him, it was just like sort of, I did have a debate in my head a little bit because it's just like, this is different. He's not Maggie, but at the same time, this is a new chapter. And like, I'm going to sort of tell the people who knew her and understood that story over the years, like, hey, here's Humphrey, and like this is the world. And Humphrey, by the way, this is a really crazy dog person thing. He's actually Maggie's cousin.
Oh,
Because I'm that person who called
back
I called this old man in Charlotte, basically crying to ask him if he had any relatives of my dog who had passed away. And he was like, well, I have her aunt's sister's, what I wrote it down because it was so obscure. It comes out to second cousin, but yeah, so that's basically the story there. I was that guy posting Facebook things, as people like to be annoying about back then, on LinkedIn before that was okay. And now everybody does it, by the way.
Yeah.
LinkedIn in 2016,
Different animal.
different animal. It was super buttoned up, and then I was not buttoned up, and I think people kind of liked it. And Maggie just became a very crucial part of that. So that's the story there. So
It's funny how it takes a dog to humanize somebody sometimes.
yeah, she did that for me, honestly. She really did. She really gave me like I was very much in those days. I mean, my boss at the time was in my current role, and he was much more charismatic, and so he probably still is, comparatively to me. And so I was kind of like the guy who is, just doing a lot of work, like I was mentioning earlier, and Maggie just like gave me something to be unique about, before I really had anything. So it meant a lot in the process of me getting to where I am now. So Humphrey is now, whether he likes it or not, joining that
He's on the team.
that legacy. So
Love it. Last question here. Does your dog have a vote? If somebody walks in your house and your dog growls at them, that's one thing. But if your dog is afraid of them, are they welcome back?
well, it hasn't happened yet. Well, actually, that's not true. Callie on my team did come to meet him, or the editor of FSR. So Basset Hounds, they don't fit what you're saying because they love every human being. They don't like dogs usually, but they are not they're not discerning creatures. They're not guard dogs. So I take him places to socialize him, like to soccer practice and
Yeah.
things, and he loves everybody. He'll bite anyone that allows him to. But yeah, dog. If you're someone that like you're not a dog person, yeah, maybe I have some questions about you. But most of our team members are cat people, which is cool, good for you guys. But as long as you also like dogs, I'm not judging you.
There you go. Well, Danny, this has been great, man. Thank you so much for investing the time with us. I know we even took a little extra time than we promised, so I appreciate the latitude. And for everybody watching on today, if you're interested in QSR Plus, Danny, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys about this?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do is probably to reach out to me directly. Plus.qsrmagazine.com is the dashboard that you can request an invite. But you can also just, if you come to me directly, I have certain links that do have like a little bit of a discount. And I'm able to get you through that way. That's, in my opinion, easier. And so like if you've seen on LinkedIn, a lot of the members posting with their own link, I created one for all of them to use too. I would go to one of those links, but again, plus.qsrmagazine.com is a starting point if you want to take it. But for sure, the easiest thing to do with most stuff, including evolution, is just come to me first.
Fantastic. And so I guess that's about it for now, guys. This has been Danny Klein with QSR Evolution, QSR Plus, Whirl, and all kinds of other things. You're one of the greats in the industry, Danny. I love how you carry yourself. I love what you're doing for the industry, and I love that you're a dog lover. That tells me all. to know about you too. And for everybody watching on, make sure you register for the QSR Evolution event coming up September 10th, so September 8th through the 10th at a much new better property from what I understand from Daniel. Excited to get there. By the way, do you marry that to WonderCon so you guys can LARP before you go into the event, or
Well,
that proximity is very interesting.
first of all, Dragon Con is
Oh,
what you're
thank you for
referencing.
correcting me. Yep, yep.
But if you're wondering why the date is different, we are avoiding Dragon Con this year. So, Dragon Con was fun for those of you who were there last year, but
We dropped right in the middle of the event. Like, what's going on?
I woke, so I have a habit of waking up the day of our conference, obviously a little bit wired and walking the halls and stuff, and it was a disaster. I mean, I've never seen a dirtier, more messed up hotel in my life. I mean, there was, I don't want to even get into it, but like I was vacuuming one of the rooms. It's just like they had this almost, I mean, it was actually impressive how fast they cleaned it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we had to get away from Dragon Con because other than just the general weirdness, which was kind of fun, they were
the unwashed masses. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I mean, they were a rowdy, messy bunch, man. It was scary that morning. Our events people were freaking out because, I mean, the bathrooms were horrible. Everything was just destroyed. So, yeah, I hope anyone who came did not notice that. But yeah, I never again.
It was very wild. Like Lily dropped in the lobby. I'm like, is this the right event?
Yeah, I mean, unless like Dragon Con moves this year, and then what I'm saying is not true, and we have to deal with it again. But
Your hotel in the
yeah, it was something I don't want to repeat in life if I can help it.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. Danny, thank you so much for who you are, what you do, and joining us. And for now, this is the ChatGTM podcast signing off. And for now, that's it. And by the way, random acts of kindness, sprinkle that stuff everywhere. Just like Danny showing up here for us today was a big thing that for us, do something for somebody else. Yeah, offer a moment of patience and kindness, open a door. Maybe that guy you're passing by, hand him a buck. But for now, that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for having me.